So I'm doing another session with the around the round pen, reverse round pen, and this looks better. I like that he's offering a faster walk already. Again, I need to be careful with that arm up cue there because like I'm not noticing it, but he is, and so he thinks this is the like position that I'm in when he is supposed to like circle around me or like lunge technically, but I'm kind of facing forward, so kind of like leading. So I need to be very careful about that. And I didn't notice that for a really long time. I actually just noticed it recently, and I'm voicing over this in December, and this is from September. So I did this for months without knowing. So that's not great. But he's responding well to my go forward cues, so that's a definite improvement. He's speeding up, he's going into the trot really well. So versus that last session, this is already looking a lot better. So a little bit of reinforcement for staying still. Again, I need to watch that and not do that too much. So when I start seeing him maybe thinking about going before I ask or stepping away before I ask, then I can start asking for and reinforcing some standstill. But I just need to really pay attention to him and not do that too much. So he's going into the trot better there. He's not swishing his tail. I couldn't really tell if his ears were thin there. They might be back a little bit, which we also need to work on. But he looked softer going into it. He didn't seem as angry about it. So like here, like maybe a little tail swish, which I don't really want, but he does look better and more comfortable going into that trot. So that's what I'm rewarding now. Not necessarily like a ton and ton of steps, but going into it softly and on cue. Nice. And he's going into it more often. So really lots of nice transitions into trot. And there I'm kind of pushing that food out, like taking a step and reaching my arm out so that he steps those front legs over and he's not quite as close. So I'd like this to kind of transition over to just me lunging him. But lots of these good transitions for him exercising too is a lot what we're trying to accomplish with him here. And I also need to be careful because I just again reinforce him for staying still. I need to make sure that I'm not doing it in the same spot because I did just do it as the same spot as I did earlier. So I need to be careful with that so that he's not always stopping in that one place. So, but going into the trot nicely. And I think, again, that was me. Like, I'm kind of like, oh, well, he trotted here last time. And I just end up doing the same things in the same spots. And I need to be more aware of it and mix it up a little bit more so that he can trot in different places and stand in different places. So, again, that's me. There, he's trotting longer that time. That looked better. So we're making some progress here. He's more forward, more willing to go forward, more willing to get to that trot. There's no tail swishing there. That looked really good. And placing the food away from me so he steps over and gets his treat when he's not coming up right next to the barrier there. Because he will push into things. Obviously, it's just like a stick, a plastic stick and a cone. Like he can push this right over. It's more of that visual barrier. That was a nice trot. So now see how you can see from this angle where he's turning to come in and I'm placing that food away from him. That's really good because I don't want to reinforce him for coming in and turning. And that was an accident on my part. That's why I ended up with that hand position is because I was holding that rope up because it would catch on the cones and then he would turn and end up in that position that I didn't want. So I just needed to probably maybe work with like a neck rope or something because I can't let him loose in here. He will just like he could just leave and I don't really want to risk that because I don't want him getting out or getting in with the Mustangs or something. Um, so just like placing my rope up higher so that I don't have to hold it as high so it doesn't get caught on the cones. That's just something I need to fix. So I'm going to place that food away so he's again not turning into the cones. I'm going forward and right into trot, and he's really offering me a lot of steps here with a decent amount of energy. No tail swishing, so that looks fantastic. Again, nice trot transition. Push that food away so he steps over and he's not coming into me to get the food. And he's going to continue to come into that position to get the food. But over time, he's going to know that if I'm consistent, he's going to know the food comes here every single time. So he's going to go to where that food is reliably placed. So it unfortunately you can't really see there. My pivo is not. There we go. Not catching up with me because that would have been a good example. You could kind of see him turn in, but then you can see where I fed, and now he's in a little bit better body positioning again there. And again, I'm messing up and I'm feeding him for standing still in that same spot again. So I need to be more aware of that. I don't know what Pivo is doing here. It's moving all around. There we go. And then feeding over. There we go. That was a good example of that. You could see that a little bit clearer. This is better. Like I'm reinforcing him for staying still, but in that different spot. So I gotta be aware of that. He's going forward nicely. Nice trot transition. I don't think I asked for that, but he gave it to me, but then he came back to that walk. So after a few steps of walk, I'm just going to reinforce him for coming back down. Because really at this point, I'm not going to just reinforce everything going into trot. So since it's so much better than it was, in that last session, the last video, I would have. Because he's offering it to me. Now he's reliably doing it on cue, so then I don't want to reinforce the offers. But in the beginning, when he's not doing it very much, or he's really not into it that much, then I do want to reinforce it, even if he just offered it to me and I didn't ask for it. I like that he's kind of going out a little bit further on that side. That's good. He kind of went into the trot on his own again. That's okay. I'm going to let him walk, and then I'll reinforce for that walk. So I don't want to reinforce a whole lot of standing still and stopping. So instead of reinforcing the trot, because I did a lot of reinforcing the trot, now he's kind of doing it a little too much, so I'm going to go back and reinforce that walk. So then the walk is also valuable to him. Because now it's like I'm putting a lot more weight in the trot, so he's continuing to offer that trot to me, and I do also want the walk, so I need to reinforce that as well. Responding nicely to my cues. And again, I gotta watch that spot. I think the reason is he's going out further on this side, and so I'm reinforcing him on that side. And I think it's because he lives over there, so he's going out slightly further on that left-hand side of the around the round pen from the screen. So that was a pretty good little session. Definitely an improvement from last time. So we're gonna go. He's still a little bit like energetic and trying to lunge, and I'm just gonna kind of put him back and go back into our leading position. There we go. He figured it out pretty fast there. He was just a little excited, so that's totally fine. And we're gonna go over here in the shade for a bit, and he's just asking him to stand still and go back into that position. We're gonna lunge over this little ground pole here. So I'm gonna get the pole ready. And it's just a little PVC pipe here. And he obviously already knows how to lunge quite well. And then we're just going to add a little obstacle for him. Because again, I do want him to do some exercising, and I'd like him to do some little jumps eventually. So this is going to be the first step in teaching him to do that. So just let him walk over it. It gives me like a tiny little jump. I thought that was adorable. So I'm definitely going to reinforce that because he's offering me more than I was asking. I was just asking him to just walk over the pole. He could have just walked right over it, but he gave me like a little bit more effort, so that was really nice. Still a little bit more effort, not as much effort as that first time, because he didn't really need to, but a nice little trot stride over there. Send him back the other direction. There we go. That's kind of what I was looking for, is just like a normal stride over it. And he offered the trot there. That's totally fine. I asked him to walk, and he responded nicely. So I'm just going to reinforce him for going over there in a nice, calm way. I think I'm asking him for a trot. Yep. I wanted him to trot over this pole if I can. Oop, not quite. Maybe I was asking for more space than I was trot. That's a possibility too. And using the target to make that space. There he goes into trot. That was really nice too. He's starting to offer that trot when I ask in different locations, so that's a big deal for him too. And then trot over the pole. Very nice. And he's pretty graceful too. I think he's definitely more graceful than Dakota. She'd just trip right over that pole. We've worked with quite a bit of poles and tried to click when her feet are being lifted and stuff like that, and it's an uphill battle with her. But he's got a nice little trot, and he kind of like he'd get through the turn and kind of slow down a little bit. I do want him to maintain that trot over it, so we're just going to try again here. Still just doing a little bit of a walk. It's all right. He is lunging nicely though. He has a nice amount of space between him and me. There we go. Nice little trot stride over the pole, and we'll click in for that. And then reinforcing for staying still. So I think I'm, again, reinforcing him for staying still a little too much, especially since I struggled with getting him to maintain the trot in the circle and to trot over the pole. So I should probably do a little bit less of that. He goes over it nicely here. I like his nice little lunging circle. That was actually very nice. He trotted really nicely. He maintained it and then went over the pole. So that was really good. Let's see if I can send him back the other direction. And he's pretty good about it too. He picks up his feet really nicely, and it's probably because he is little, so for him the pole is a lot bigger than it is like Dakota, so that's probably why. But yeah, that's a nice little lunging circle. That looks really good. Nice. Oop. A little trip over it. Not bad though. I don't care if he trips occasionally. If he's tripping a lot over it, like I want to make sure that I'm not accidentally like reinforcing that. But I think that was just him just tripping over it. And he's thinking forward a lot more here. He's doing a little trot to follow me. That looks great. I'm really happy with that. So we're going to be working on the spin a little bit. So I'm just using my target, and I want him to follow it and bring those shoulders over away from me. That's going to be that first step there. That's what we want. Those little 2 steps there. This front leg's to the right. And then, obviously we'll just continue around on the circle. That looks great. And I want to make sure that I'm not feeding him too close to me, because you can see he took that step back to the right, and so we don't want that, because I don't want step to the right and then back to the left. I don't want that side to side. I want that spin and then you get your food. So in this first part, I want to make sure he does like that little half turn, and then I bring the food to him. So we'll click that, and then I'll bring to him. So use my target over his back. He's gonna he's got his mouth full here, so he's not really paying attention as much. There we go. That really nice. He had a couple backup steps there, and then he went ahead and moved over. I should still fed that though, because he did step over. And this is the hardest part, is when you kind of have your right directly behind him, and then they have to figure out like going around versus going back to the left. And so that's a little bit of a trickier part here. So there we go. See how he goes to the right and then he wants to go back to the left? Let's see if he'll. There we go. That looks better. And this is the very, very beginning of the spin. And it looks pretty good already. And he's really easy to teach this to, because he is little and I can just put my target right over his back. So that does help. Very nice. And then as soon as he comes around, he gets his food. So that looked pretty good for his first attempt at that. That looks really nice.